Hello, everyone. My name is Jocelyn, and I am an online traveling teacher. I work primarily with Outschool as a beginner Spanish level teacher, and I love teaching the littles. So, students from as early as 4 years old all the way to 8 years old. That is like my zone of genius. That is where I feel most excited, and I really, really enjoy it. But something that you really need to think about when you are working with such young children is how do you keep their attention? Because if you've ever worked with young learners, you know they have a lot of energy, they have a lot of things they want to share with you, and it can sometimes feel like a challenge when you're trying to get them to focus on learning something. So, what I do in my classes is I incorporate a lot of games. And if you've watched some of my other YouTube videos where I talk about different online tools you can use to engage your learners, I have high praises for Canva. And I use Canva a lot to create different kinds of games that engage my learners and keep them focused and practicing the target language. So, if you are also an online teacher, if you are a language teacher, today we're going to talk about how you can create a board game using Canva in order to engage your learners. So, if you have a Canva account, I highly suggest to pull that up while we are talking and maybe start creating it as we're going through this video, or watch the full video and then go back to your Canva account and start creating it afterwards. Either way, you are going to love what including board games in your classroom is going to do for your students. They are going to be having more fun and they're going to be using the target language or practicing those different concepts, and you're going to have a lot of fun. So let's get to it. Okay, so you can see here I am logged into my Canva account. Please keep in mind that I do have access to the pro version of Canva. So some of the things that we're going to look at today might be a little bit different for you if you are just using the free version. The first thing we are going to do is go up to this purple rectangle that says create a design. We're going to click on that. And we're going to scroll down to the bottom where there's this circle with the plus sign. Underneath it, it says custom size. We're going to click on that, change this to inches, and type in 8.5 by 11. If you're in the United States, this is going to give you a standard piece of paper. So if you create this design, you can easily print it at your home, or you can easily send it to your students and have them print it at home. The first thing I'm going to do once I enter this editor stage is I'm going to go up to the top and I'm going to name this document board game example. The second thing I'm going to do is create the look of my board game. So generally when you create a board game, you have a place where your students are going to start. They're going to have to travel along some kind of path to a finish point. Generally, I begin my start section in the upper left-hand corner, and I will have the design, the path kind of wind its way along the sheet of paper and end it over in the bottom right-hand corner. You can choose what kinds of shapes you want, but I typically use squares. So over here, where you have all of these different elements and things you can add to your sheet, I'm going to click on Elements, and I'm going to type in square because I want the shape of my path to be made up of little squares. Oh, and great, look, there's this square here that's free. It has a nice thick line, so it's going to be easy to see. But if you're going to be printing this, or if you're going to have your students print this, I suggest that you change the color to black, just so that you're not wasting any colored ink. So we can go up to this colored square and then find the color that you would like your squares to be. Again, I'm going to choose black or gray just because it won't waste colored ink. Now, as you can see, this square is quite large, so we're going to have to make it a little bit smaller. If you click on the square element, you can go over to one of the corners of the square and drag it in towards itself until you reach the desired size. This is a good size for me, and I'm going to bring it up to the left-hand corner where I'm going to have my students start their game pieces. Then if I click on this, I can either double click, hit the copy button, double click again, and then click the paste. This will create another box. I'm going to have each of the boxes kind of connect towards each other, so you can, double click, copy, double click, paste, or there's also a shorthand that you can do that I find quite easy with your keyboard is click on the square. You're going to click Command C and then Command V when you want to paste it. So I just find that that's easier. Command C, Command V, and then I just stack them next to each other. So depending on the size of your squares, the shape of your board game is going to be a little bit different, but you can have it kind of snake around the whole entire piece of paper. So as you can see, I have created this kind of snake S shape with all of those squares. All of the squares are connected so you can easily see where the path is going to take you. And once you're happy with the form that you've created, yours might look a little bit like this, or maybe you have it snake back and forth a little bit more, or it's maybe a C shape or an L shape. What you can do next is you can indicate where your students are going to start on the game board and where they're going to finish on the game board. The way that I usually do that is through written text. So I'm going to go over to where we had clicked elements before, and I'm going to go down to the big T that has the word text underneath it. Here you can see all of the different texts that you are able to use. Again, this might vary a little bit if you're using the Pro Canva version versus if you're just using the free version. But regardless, you're going to have access to some kind of text. Choose the one that you would like and then write start in one of them. If you need to make it bigger, you can just drag it out. If you need to make it smaller, drag it in. And then if you click on those little arrows, you can move it to where you want it to be on your game board. I'm going to then click on the text again. I'm going to hit Command C to copy and then Command V to paste. And I'm going to bring this second text box, I'm going to drag it all the way down to where I want my students to finish the game board. I'm going to click on the text and highlight it, and I'm going to change it to finish because this is not where I want them to start. This is where I want my students to finish. Next, what you can do if you want to add some nice little elements is maybe you want to add some hidden pathways, some secret passageways where if a student rolls a number or if they pick up a particular card and land on a certain space, they can sneak ahead and they don't have to go the full length of the game board. So in order to find a feature that is going to work well for this little hidden pathway or secret passageway, I go over to Elements and I'm going to search for a path. And you can see I have a few different options here. Some of them are pro. Let me see if I can find one for free. Okay, this yellow one is free, and then there's also this orange one that's for free as well. And I'm going to try this yellow path here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect it to the end of the box where I want my students to come from, as well as indicate where they're coming from. Can play around with the sizes of it. You might have to look around for a couple different shapes because some shapes are going to work better for others, but luckily Canva has lots and lots of different options for you to choose from and to kind of play around with it. So this particular path that I chose works well for this space, right? My students can see that if they land on this box that I have highlighted, they can follow the path and then they will be brought to this other square box. So it's a nice little way for them to skip ahead. You can add as many secret passageways or hidden paths as you would like. If you are using the Pro version, or if you have the Pro version subscription, you do have a few more options to choose from. So I could click on this road and I could make another hidden pathway. Maybe I want it to lead from this box here, and then I'm going to make it a little bit smaller, and I'm going to have it connect to this box. I need a little bit more space though, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste this road, and I'm actually going to rotate it. I'm going to spin it around. I can do that here by clicking on those two little arrows that make a circle and actually physically kind of spin it around. I can connect to this road so that they're kind of connected here, and I can make it a little bit smaller so it just fits the design a little bit better. And that way students can really kind of tell that it's leading you here to this box. And again, play around with the size of it, play around with the shape of it until you're happy with how it looks. Okay, so I think that that is a very clear image of where the students are going to be headed if they land on the secret spot. And again, you can add as many of those little passageways as you see fit, and feel free to play around with the shape of your board and with the different elements that you choose. Once you have this general outline of your board game, what you can do, and what I suggest doing if you plan on creating different board games with different themes, is keep this as a template. Save this as a template so that every time you go to create a board game, you don't have to recreate the reel. You already have a template to work from, a base to work from. So if that was the case, if that's what you wanted to do, maybe we would rename this board game template. Right? It's not associated with any particular theme or topic. It's just a template. Then what I can do is go over to File up here in the upper left-hand corner, click File, and we're going to make a copy. So scroll down to make a copy, click Make a Copy. And this is going to allow you to make other changes and have it all be saved in a separate document or file. So it's not going to alter that original template that we created. So now I can specifically name this something related to the topic or theme that my students and I are learning about. So say, for example, we are learning about zoo animals. So I'm going to entitle this Zoo Board Game, so that I'm very clear on what lesson I'm going to be using this for. And as I mentioned before, I teach Spanish lessons, but maybe you teach English lessons or some other kind of language. So you might have different vocabulary topics that you are teaching your students. Board games are a great way to practice those vocabulary terms, because each of those new vocabulary terms that you are practicing, you can place in different squares of this board game. So if you're learning about fruit, you can put the different fruits you're learning about in each of the squares. If you're learning about ice cream flavors, you can put the different ice cream flavors in each of the boxes. Here, if I wanted to create a game surrounding the topic of zoo animals, I can put different zoo animals in each of the boxes. The way that I would do that is I would go over to Elements on the left-hand side of this Canva editor, and I'm going to search for the vocabulary terms that my students are practicing. So maybe we are learning the word elephant. So I have all these different options of elephants, and as I had alluded to previously, I generally try to find images and elements that don't utilize a lot of color, just so that it's easier to print. So there's a few pro versions of elephants that are in black and white or are just simply an outline. Here we have one that is free. That's good. So I'll click on it. It's going to come up on my board game. I'm going to minimize it or make it smaller, and then drag it into the square that I want. And I can make a few of them and just place them throughout the board game. Once I'm happy with how many elephants I have on my board game, I can then go to the next vocabulary term. So, say for example, we are also learning the word tiger. I'll search for tiger and then scroll through to find an image that I am happy with. And here we have a free black and white tiger. I'll click on it, make it smaller, and then bring it into the boxes that I would like it to reside in. If I want to see other images that are similar to the one I had just chosen, you can see here that it says magic recommendations. So I'm going to actually click on that. I'm going to click see all, and then, oh, a lot of these are free and they have a similar look to the design I had just chosen. So I can choose the other animals that correspond with the vocabulary words we're learning in class. Maybe we have giraffe. If at some point I want to change the direction of this image, what I can do is click on the image I would like to change the direction, go up to the top and click flip. I can then flip it horizontally or flip it vertically. I'm going to click flip horizontal and it'll just change the direction that the animal or the image was facing. The final vocabulary term we're going to learn is lion. So I'll click on the lion, make it the size that I want, and then I'm going to copy and paste it into each of the boxes that I want. I can change the direction that the lion is facing, just as I did with the giraffe. And now you can see that in each of these boxes I have all of the different vocabulary terms my students would be learning in this unit. Another thing I should mention is that you might originally click on an image and it's not the color that you would like. Thankfully, you can change this on Canva. Simply click on the image that you would like to change the color of. When you click on the image, you'll be able to see if you can in fact change the color by looking up here at the white bar right underneath the purpley blue banner head. You can see that the color of the item here is in this square. If I click on that colored square, I'm then able to change the color to whatever color I desire. I am going to change this to gray, and you can see it automatically changes the color of it on my sheet. So now everything on my sheet is in grayscale, so it will make printing it very easy. Once you have all of the images of the vocabulary terms on your game board, you are nearly done. The rest of the design is up to you. So maybe you wanted to add a few other elements on your game board, like a safari car. And then scroll through to see if I can find a nice free image that we can use at the start of our game. And maybe if I can't find specifically a safari, maybe I look up Jeep, because safari cars generally are Jeeps. And then, oh, look, we found a nice free image. I can click on it, and then it's going to pop up on my game board. It's driving in the wrong direction, so I can click on the image of the Jeep, click up here to flip, and flip horizontal. And I can have this maybe at the beginning of my board game because I'll have my students pretend that they're driving at the zoo or they're driving on a safari to see all of these different animals. We could add other elements that are related to the topic or theme. Maybe we want a compass or some other image. Truly, you can figure out all of those design elements once you decide on a topic for your class and begin to create your own board game. So my friends, that is pretty much it. This is how you can easily create a board game using Canva. The way that you could play this game in classroom is you could have your students make different flashcards associated with the board game where each of the cards has an image or the name of the animal that they have to read, and then they have to put it to the animal. Maybe you play it with a game die where your students are rolling to see how far they go through the board game, and then they have to make a sentence about the animal that they land on, include the vocabulary term that they landed on in a sentence, or just simply identifying it. You could have them practice a sentence frame. Really, there are lots and lots of different options depending on the target language that you are practicing with your students. You could also choose to use a random word generator or a random image generator. I tend to use wordwall.net to create different spinny wheels and different digital cards to use with my students to play games during the classroom. So that is another outlet that you can look into, and you can learn a little bit more about WordWall in my video that talks about the top 3 tools that I use in the online classroom. But those are all just different suggestions that you can take to heart and figure out what's going to work best for you when you're playing these board games in the classroom. So my teacher friends, I want to thank you so much for joining me here on my YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this video, if you found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up. And if you are not already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button so that you are notified of any future videos. In the future, I will be talking more about how we can engage our young learners, how we can create and play different fun games in the classroom to keep our learners not only having fun, but also learning and practicing those very important lesson objectives. So I hope that you will join me in some future videos. Please hit like and subscribe if you have not already, and let me know in the comments what you found most valuable about this video and what you plan to incorporate in your own classroom. If you are interested in learning more about how to engage young learners in the online classroom and the different games you can play, the different lessons that you can create, feel free to check out my online workshops happening now and in the future. I'll leave the link down in the description box so that you can easily access that if you just want a little bit more support and are interested in learning more about these topics. In my online workshops, we actually give participants templates of different board games, mazes, and other activities you can use in the classroom so that you can save yourself a ton of time, as well as learn how to create your own using Canva and other online tools. So definitely check that out and come and join in on the fun. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon in some future videos. Bye for now, friends.